Shakespeare's Sonnet 66. Everyone's familiar with Shakespeare's plays, Hamlet, King Lear, Macbeth. Shakespeare's sonnets are a little less well known. People know Sonnet 18. Who here is familiar with Shakespeare's sonnets? Any of them? Yeah, some of you. Sonnet 18, you know, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? You've heard that one? Yeah, so people are somewhat familiar with them, but not as much. The sonnets are really remarkable because in Shakespeare's plays, even though there's like immense depth and great understanding of human nature and the human condition, so on and so forth, you can't really see Shakespeare himself. Like Shakespeare, the man's hard to spot in the plays. You know, sometimes when you read a book, you kind of feel like the author's in there and you have a real sense of who they are. Shakespeare, he's hard to spot in there. But when you flip over to the sonnets, you feel like you've got Shakespeare the man in there. And of all his sonnets, he's got 154 of them. Sonnet 66 is my favorite. The sonnets are love poems. Generally, they're about love and death for the most part. Sonnet 66, as you'll see, is about love, but for the most part, it's Shakespeare objecting to, complaining about all the things he doesn't like in the world. But not just the world. Failures in the world and failures in the self. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And every time I read it, I feel like I'm talking to my brother from another mother, you know? I feel like I sort of can't believe how contemporary the ideas are in it. Okay, I was attempting titles here: Merit, Morality, and Corruption. It's about merit, this sonnet. It's like a key issue today, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, the fundamental problem with that is it's about identity, not merit. It's like a ray gun at the Olympics. These are like big problems that we're dealing with today. Merit, morality, you know, what's good and bad, and the corruption of these things. I say here also, the definitive values. When I read this, I feel like this is just an amazing collection of values, which certainly my values. I feel like they're a clear articulation of a good kind of middle path, liberal values. They take a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right. I like to talk about it as much as I can. It's remarkable that something over 400 years old it could not be more relevant for today. So, sonnets, 14 lines, relatively short. I'll go over the whole poem and then I'll just go through each line. I generated some AI images to kind of capture the spirit of each line as I went. Tied with all these, for restful death I cry, as to behold desert, a beggar born, and needy nothing trimm'd in jollity, and purest faith unhappily forsworn, and gilded honor shamefully misplaced, and maiden virtue rudely strumpeted, and right perfection wrongfully disgraced, and strength by limping sway disabled, and art made tongue-tied by authority, and folly doctor-like controlling skill, and simple truth miscall'd simplicity, and captive good attending captain ill. Tied with all these, from these would I be gone, save that to die I leave my love alone. It ends up being a love poem at the end. But I want to walk through each of these lines with you because God knows the first time I looked at it, they didn't all make sense. But it's, as I say, a remarkable collection of values. Tied with all these, for restful death I cry. All of these iniquities of life, these failures of humanity, of society, they bother him so much he wished he'd be dead. I don't know, is that too dramatic? I'm not sure. These sorts of corruptions bother me a lot. Certainly, when you wake up and have a bad morning, you know the feeling? You're like, yeah, all the time, right? Gets a little better. You get around 6 o'clock, things are looking a bit brighter. I love that this is the first main line. As to behold desert, a beggar born. Desert is someone deserving. And yet someone deserving is born a beggar. This is someone who's intelligent, someone who's capable, someone who has drive. And yet they're born a beggar, so they can't realize their potential. This is immediately an argument for equality of opportunity, which is why I say it's so remarkably contemporary. This is liberal values at its best, not pushing for equality of outcome, which is like DEI stuff, everyone gets the same, or communism, whatever, the worser aspects of the left, but it's about people who have ability having the opportunity to exercise that ability. First line, as to behold desert, a beggar born. And then the inverse, needy nothing trimmed in jollity. A needy nothing's an inconsequential person. You know, like why are they so rich? What are they doing? They're hopeless. So it's like the inverse. It's the great unfairnesses of society. You've got deserving people born beggars, and people who have no merit whatsoever have everything. Takes a little from the left, maybe a little from the right, you know? Well, actually, I should rephrase that. Both of those actually seem like they come from the left, ultimately. And purest faith, unhappily forsworn. He flips from worrying about society to the individual. That's what's so interesting about this poem. Failures of the left and the right often take the form of complaining about society, complaining about what's outside. But the right politics involves a middle path between complaining about the failures in the world and the failures in the self. It's like a balance. So I love that. It's beautiful. And purest faith, unhappily forsworn. So you've been faithful, maybe in a religious sense, you've been devout, or maybe there's just some goal in life, some task, something that you stick to that's really meant a lot to you, and you're like, I'm giving everything to this. And then, you meet that person again a little later, you're like, what happened with that thing you were working on? You're like, the person's like, And it hurts. Like, wow, I believed in you. I thought you believed in that, Purest faith, unhappily forsworn. Similar. The same ideas repeat. Gilded honor, shamefully misplaced. You're an honorable person. You meet someone who's an honorable person. You know someone who's an honorable person. And they have values. And at some point, they give up on that. They turn to the dark side. It hurts. This is the most striking line of them all. I spent so much time rehearsing how to talk about it, and even still, I'm not sure exactly how to talk about it. And maiden virtue rudely strumpeted. Maiden virtue, virtuous maiden, rudely strumpeted. I think we know what that means. Strumpet. What do we say these days? Whore, slut, things like that. But it's interesting that Shakespeare put that. I mean, I could talk about this line for hours. I guess in Shakespeare's time and in our time also, my sense is that men knowingly enter into evil with women. We have two quite clear paths. I can see you nodding. There's like the virtuous path where you meet a woman, you want to have a relationship with her, you plan to treat her well, and then there's the other path, the womanizing path. Seems to me women exist in a slightly different realm. That distinction, which is so clear in the man's mind, is perhaps not so clear in the woman's mind. And it's particularly tragic, maybe, when the woman goes down the other path. For some reason, it's not quite so tragic when a man enters into evil. But when a woman goes down that path, it hurts, especially when you've seen someone who has been on the virtuous path. But it's, like I say, I could talk about this line for hours. I'm only just beginning to scratch the surface because it's deep, it's real, but it's also ringed with taboo. Yes?
If I may, so do you think the verb strumpeted there is transitive or intransitive? Do you think that she's strumpeting herself, or do you think that someone else is strumpeting
I'm so glad you asked that question, because the question was, did someone else strumpet her or did she strumpet herself? I was going to talk about that, and then I decided not to. My initial thought was someone else strumpeted her, which I think is particularly powerful because that's exactly what happens when a man becomes a womanizer. He presents himself as being the decent guy, the honorable guy, whatever, tricks the woman, and then she's strumpeted. So I'm actually glad you said that. But the reason I've now said it, but the reason why I at one point decided not to say it is the previous lines. What is it? Pops out of my head, gilded honor, shamefully misplac'd. That to me is someone doing it to themselves. Purest faith, unhappily forsworn. That's someone doing it to themselves. But yeah, it's not clear in this case. But it is particularly tragic when someone does it to a woman, let's say that. And that's probably the best reading of the line. So yeah, thank you. We get back around to merit again. And right perfection wrongfully disgraced. Right perfection. Someone who is brilliant at something, they're good at it, and yet they're disgraced. Hurts, right? That person's worthy, and they're still getting crapped on. And the same idea, it turns up again and again now. And strength by limping, sway, disabled. Same thing, strength is someone who's capable being disabled by someone who is not. It's quite a good line poetically as well, because the whole poem is, all of Shakespeare's sonnets are iambic pentameter. Tired with all these for restful death I cry. 5 beats with 2 iambs within each one. Da 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 da. And this one, it doesn't fit. And strength, unless you say it funny. And strength by limping, sway, disabled. Doesn't really work. But if you say, and strength by limping, sway, disabled, even the line itself is disabled. It's a nice touch. Nice little poetic touch there. But it's the same point. Someone who is capable being undermined by someone who's less capable. It's like, I keep thinking of, Monty Python, not Monty Python, Fawlty Towers. Same guy, John Cleese, Don't mention the war, I mentioned it once. It's like, don't complain about university. I complained about it once. But yeah, these are obviously my concerns with the university. You have people who are capable within the system, good teachers or good researchers, but you try to speak truth or whatever, you breach taboos, and you're out, you're cancelled. So you can see how contemporary this is. Oh, I love this one. And art made tongue-tied by authority. You're artistic, you're creative, you're passionate. Those people often wear their heart on their sleeve, They're open, maybe too open. And what happens? You get crushed by people in authority. Yes?
Do you see that modern parallel with comedians in any way?
Yeah, the question was, do I see the modern parallel with comedians? Absolutely. Excellent point. And so the whole point of being a comedian these days, especially if you're a kind of, Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle, maybe Bill Burr, the more edgy ones, is they are refusing to be tongue-tied by authority. And that's why today, that's why today we're often looking to comedians as the ones that resist being tongue-tied by authority. But so many other people aren't. Yeah? I let myself get tongue-tied by authority. I try not to.
I feel like
the questions are flowing.
No, it's not a question, just like a comment. Shane Gillis is like a...
Shane Gillis?
He's like a saint when it comes to that. Like he was once cancelled, and then now he's back.
He's back, yeah.
Show that cancelled him.
So you can see the whole cancel culture thing is completely consistent with what Shakespeare's on about here. But I love that line, art made tongue-tied by authority, and folly, doctor-like controlling skill. Similar point again about merit and power. Skill, the person who can actually do something. But what a wonderful description. Folly, that's someone who's in error, someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but they're in a position of power. Doctor-like, the way a doctor is absolutely precise. When you deal with someone who's unbelievably good at mind games? You know what they call them these days? Narcissists or whatever. That's the word du jour. But yeah, and they're just so good. They kind of run rings around you. Folly, doctor-like controlling skill. And it's these people that are often getting into positions of power in our institutions and undermining them and, hollowing them out from the inside. Yes?
Seeing described as like that happens at the institutional level, do you think the doctor comparison is a part of that, in that doctors are the most educated by the institution?
That's interesting. So the question is, is the doctor also, is there a link with the institution, and folly, doctor-like controlling skill? I'm unsure. Good point, but unsure. All right. Shh. This one's a real beauty. Simple truth miscall'd simplicity. Do you hear? Even Trump these days is saying, I'm common sense. So there's a whole echelon of society who says, yeah, I do common sense. And at the moment, or not even at the moment, for 30, 40, 50 years, 60, 70, going back to someone like Adorno even, probably further back on the left, common sense is the enemy. Because common sense has embedded within it the ideology of the ruling class. You see? So common sense isn't common sense. We've been tricked into thinking it's common sense because we've been brainwashed by the ruling class. Which is why then the long line of intellectuals for way too many years write so unbelievably badly. That's their defense of bad writing. We're trying to make strange by writing badly because common sense is the enemy. And there's almost an argument to be made there, but I guess having come this far in life, I don't agree. I think that you can say the most profound thoughts with actually quite a lot of precision and relatively easily. Shakespeare's sonnets are a testament to that, as so many other things. I mean, yeah. So, but it's this back and forth battle. Even Shakespeare was on it. It's just like, it's obvious. It's common sense. Dare I say, we do know what a woman is. We do know what a mother is. Like it's common sense. What's the other option? Strange, convoluted, twisted, bizarre arguments and claims that make no sense. A birthing person, anyway. And it goes on. And captive good, attending captain ill. Similar point, but in a moral sense. The good person serving the evil person. These are all decisions we all have to make as well. When you work your day job, and your boss is, amoral, dark, evil, take your pick, and you have to go along with it. I asked her to do a Hieronymus Bosch style image for this one.
It's quite gorgeous.
It's good, isn't it? Took a fair amount of time getting these pictures right. And then the finish. Like I say, a sonnet's meant to be a love poem. But this is quite remarkable. Remember what I said, one of the themes running through all these lectures is the idea of human connection. And I feel like liberalism at its very best, it's founded in many things, but one of the things it's founded in is human connection. Connection with others, connection with the self. Tied with all these, from these would I be gone, save that to die, I leave my love alone. What's the only thing that redeems life for the persona of the poem, which I kind of assume is Shakespeare? Human connection, love. It's what redeems this whole damn corrupt business. Quite the poem, huh? Quite the poem. You can see it's left wing in the sense that we understand left wing. It's concerned about lack of opportunity for poor people. It doesn't like when particularly rich people are completely hopeless, but they have vast amounts of money. It feels wrong. It's kind of not fair. Yet it's not just the world to blame. It's the self as well. The corruption is within the self. We give up our own honor. We give up our own faith. But then it also, the bulk of the poem is championing merit, whether it's artistic merit or moral merit or skilled merit. So you see, this is the correct middle path, worrying about equality of opportunity, worrying about the poor, but also we can't turn our back on merit. We can't turn our back on genuine skill, competence, or values, whatever. So yes, that's it. Any comments?
If I may.
Nick first.
It seems like a lamentation of evil proper in the world. Not evil, but just bad things happen.
Yeah, it's a lamentation of so many of the evils within the world, yes.
But on top of that, it seems like the writer, Mr. Shakespeare.
It seems like what?
It seems like the writer, Mr. Shakespeare here,
Yes.
is having a moment where it's too much for him. It's too much for him to sort of handle.
Yeah, it's too much for Shakespeare. And I love this so much because, I can't really know, but I assume it is Shakespeare. I've got more arguments to make about why I think it is, but I won't go into that. But we've got someone who, even in his time, knew he was great and going to go down in history. A lot of the other sonnets, he talks about that as well. Like he knows he's good. He knows he's going to stand the test of time. And despite being so brilliant, he suffers from the same stuff that the rest of us suffer. It's a beautiful thing. He's frail, like the rest of us. It's really touching.
Sack of bones.
Sack of bones, yeah. Tim?
It's interesting, actually. It's often said that Shakespeare had a fear of death.
Shakespeare had a fear of death,
yeah. There's some biographical evidence for that. But what really stood out to me, I know that you're currently doing a close study of Hamlet.
Yes.
And I was really struck by the parallel with the classic lines we all know about the proud man's contumely and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the to be or not to be speech. It overlaps heavily with Sonnet 66.
Do you think that this perhaps gives us an insight into the kind of autobiographical character of Hamlet as a play by linking that speech to this sonnet? Do you think that and what do you make of that?
Yeah, do I think linking Hamlet with Sonnet 66 adds greater depth? Yeah, unquestionably. It's beautiful when you actually read Hamlet and then you read this and realize it's the same. The words in Hamlet are different, but the sentiment is the same. So yeah, it adds greater depth, and it also makes, I suppose it very much allows us to make the case that Hamlet is in many ways Shakespeare. Which I don't think that's a tough claim to make. Hamlet is, troubled in many ways, struggles with action, struggles to stand up to power, is greatly hurt by the evils within the world. It seems to me very much that, the sonnets give us an insight into the real Shakespeare, and then we take that with us into reading the other works, for sure.